Theo is gripped by dread in newly released Coronation Street scenes, as the devastating consequences of Billy's death begin to ripple through Weatherfield. The brutal reality of the loss is sinking in, leaving the entire street struggling to come to terms with a tragedy that has changed everything. Billy lost his life after the minibus he was driving home from Debbie's wedding became caught in the chaos of the Coryell disaster and crashed. While the other passengers managed to escape, Billy was left trapped inside, unable to free himself from his seat belt. As flames spread and the vehicle grew dangerously unstable, it became terrifyingly clear that the minibus was moments away from exploding. In a shocking turn of events, Theo returned to the wreckage just as Billy finally managed to release himself. In a split-second decision fueled by jealousy, bitterness, and deep resentment over Billy's close bond with Todd, Theo cruelly reattached the seat belt, leaving Billy trapped once more. He then walked away, abandoning Billy to his fate moments before the vehicle detonated. In newly released footage, Todd and Theo are later joined by Summer and George, who have just returned from viewing the heartfelt tributes left along the street in Billy's memory. Summer is visibly moved by the messages, especially one that reads, "In my darkest moment, you stood by me. You were God's most beautiful messenger." The words prove too much, and she breaks down as the full weight of Billy's death hits her. Already grieving the loss of Paul, Summer realizes she has lost another father figure far too soon. Theo appears deeply unsettled by the encounter and suggests stepping away to give Todd, George and Summer some space. While it initially seems like a considerate gesture, it quickly becomes apparent that Theo is struggling to cope with his own overwhelming guilt as he witnesses Summer's raw grief. When she asks, "Why did it have to be him?" Theo's response, that perhaps it was what Billy would have wanted, lands painfully wrong, given what he knows he has done. When Summer admits she cannot face being alone in the flat she once shared with Billy, Todd responds with warmth and compassion. Theo, however, interjects almost immediately, offering for her to stay with him for as long as she needs, speaking before Todd even has the chance to reply. Unlike Todd's quiet empathy, Theo's offer feels forced, driven more by obligation than genuine care. Theo has long displayed signs of jealousy whenever anyone competes for Todd's attention, whether it be Billy, Sarah or Summer. The idea of Summer, whom Todd sees as his daughter, moving in with him is clearly unsettling for Theo, particularly as he silently carries the burden of knowing he caused the death of the man she loved as a father. Elsewhere, a long-running Coronation Street mystery appeared to be resolved in deeply emotional scenes as Shona gave birth following the devastating Coryell crash. Viewers were left heartbroken during Wednesday night's episode as a heavily pregnant Shona was rushed into surgery in a desperate attempt to save her unborn daughter after the tragic accident. Fans of the iconic soap were overwhelmed as the fallout from Coryell continued to unfold, with several Weatherfield residents injured and lives hanging in the balance. Among those caught up in the horror was Shona, who had been expecting a baby girl. For months, she had been grappling with the devastating news that her unborn child had developed a tumor, and that the only available surgery carried serious risks for both mother and baby. In the latest episode, Shona was transferred back to Weatherfield General after initially receiving treatment at Houghton General for injuries sustained in the crash. Unable to sleep ahead of the high-risk procedure, David headed out early and found himself at Roy's Rolls, where Bernie offered him a comforting cup of tea. He admitted his fears, explaining that a specialist surgeon was traveling a long distance to take over the case. As David sat quietly with his drink, another customer entered the cafe and mentioned Billy's tragic death, which had made the local headlines. Tensions later flared when David encountered the same man in the hospital car park, resulting in a heated confrontation. Panicked, David rushed to the ward only to learn that the original top surgeon had failed to arrive. Still recovering from the seizure he suffered during the crash and having been advised not to drive, David was nevertheless forced to get behind the wheel after being let down by others. As he vented his frustration beside Shona's hospital bed, the man he had argued with earlier revealed himself to be Vincent Harper, the consultant who had driven hundreds of miles to step in at the last minute. Hours later, a nurse finally delivered the long-awaited news: both mother and baby were doing well. The newborn had been taken to neonatal intensive care but was breathing independently and in stable condition. Later scenes showed the consultant listening to a birthday message from his young daughter, joking that it was the worst possible day to celebrate after the Christmas rush. He later reassured David that the tumor was hopefully not cancerous and that the tracheostomy was only temporary until surgery could be carried out in a few months' time. David apologized for the earlier dispute and was overjoyed to discover that his newborn daughter shared the same birthday as the consultant. Returning to Shona, David told her their baby was doing brilliantly and suggested that Billy must have been watching over them. The consultant later returned to Roy's roles, where Bernie quietly revealed that Billy had been her son-in-law. As the episode drew to a close, Shona and David stood in awe beside their baby girl, surrounded by medical equipment. Fighting back tears, Shona admitted she already loved her daughter more than words could express. The conversation soon turned to names, and David suggested Harper, in honor of the surgeon who saved their child's life, a choice they both happily embraced. However, the emotional storyline took another unexpected turn. Viewers had previously spotted a mysterious woman named Jody during the Coriol crossover, watching Shona at Houghton General before later arriving in Weatherfield. While Shona was in surgery, the woman was seen sniffing her clothes, and in the final moments of the episode, she watched the happy family through a hospital window. When asked if she was a proud mother, she corrected the assumption, calling herself a proud aunt, seemingly revealing that she is Shona's long-lost sister. Fans quickly took to social media to share their reactions. One viewer praised David's maturity and unwavering support, while others described the scenes between him and his newborn daughter as deeply moving. Many expressed sympathy for Bernie following Billy's death, while speculation grew over what Jody's arrival could mean. Attention was drawn to the shared tattoo between the two women, with many convinced the reveal confirmed a secret sibling connection. In recent episodes, viewers have also shared a common request following the debut of Dr. Vincent Harper. As Weatherfield continues to reel from Monday's devastating events, the episode focused heavily on David and Shona's emotional journey. Yet one moment stood out when Bernie encountered the unexpectedly chatty stranger at Roy's Rolls, later revealed to be the specialist surgeon from Bristol tasked with carrying out Shona's high-risk operation. His brief cafe visit sparked intrigue among fans, many wondering whether his role might extend beyond a single episode. When Dr. Harper casually mentioned Billy's death and referred to the lack of gay vicars, Bernie was taken aback, prompting an awkward explanation that he had read it in the newspaper. Viewers then followed Dr. Harper through the rest of his day as he arrived at Weatherfield General, clashed light-heartedly with David in the car park, and ultimately carried out the life-saving surgery. He later confirmed that Shona faced a lengthy recovery and that their newborn daughter would temporarily rely on a tracheostomy to breathe. Coronation Street continues to air at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1 and ITVX.